Hello ladies and gentlemen, Gapesy here. We are back with some Hearthstone Arena, and today we're going to be playing Rogue. I haven't done very many Rogue runs. And a quick update on my Arena stats. I'm currently at 74.48% win rate across 2,484 Arena games. And for Rogue in particular, it's technically my highest class at 79.31% win rate, but that's kind of skewed. I'm only at 58 total games, so basically I haven't played Rogue very much, so I just did really well with a couple runs and my win rate has gotten really high. Anyway, so to begin here, we got a rare pick. Generally speaking in arenas, Ancient Watcher is going to be a pretty weak card because it can't attack, so you have to silence it or have to give it taunt so it can actually do something useful. And most of the times you just can't rely on that synergy, that combination. So pretty much skip over Ancient Watcher in arenas unless it's really late and you already have a couple silences and taunt givers. Ancient Mage is okay, but its attack is pretty low, and unless you desperately need spell damage, it's going to be another card you kind of want to skip. So we'll go Auctioneer here. As the first pick, it's a little risky because we don't know if we're going to get that many spells, but I am a rogue, so ideally I will get a number of really good and cheap rogue spells. Things we'll be looking for are backstabs, deadly poisons, and eviscerates. Those are the big ones that are always really good and really easy to combine with something like Auctioneer. Okay. Next up, Oracle, no good. You can't rely on Murlocs, so you want to skip this card. Berserker is okay on 5, but it takes an extra round of attacking or taking damage to actually get going and reach his 5 attack potential. Or I shouldn't say potential, but you know, that's kind of where he needs to be. So I'm going to go Phantom Knives. I think rogues don't have very much board clear, but this is one of the easy ways to do pseudo board clear. Usually I'll play this card in combination with either spell damage if I happen to have any, or just plan to do 1 damage and then use my dagger to hit something to do the other damage to kill a 2 health minion. So because it doesn't lose your card advantage, it's an okay source of board damage, but it's just not very efficient. Okay, 3 really good cards here. Storm of Champions, great for the late game, but I'm going to skip it for now because I tried to draft Rogue sort of more of an early to mid game, because that seems to be their strength. Bomber is good 2-drop, but I'm going to go Defias. It's a very powerful card if you can combo it out. Total stats are 4/3 for 2 mana, obviously, and probably one of the most well-known rogue moves is going second to have the Device Ringleader coined out on turn 1. That's very difficult for many classes to deal with. Okay. Abusive Sergeant, no good. Battlecry is worthless on turn 1, since you have nothing to buff. So you have to kind of play this mid to late game, which is pretty weak. Grizzly's an okay 3-drop, just 3/3 taunt. And Nightblade is a little bit weak. Arguably for a rogue, it's a little bit stronger than for other classes because rogues tend to be focused on aggression, doing damage to the hero, and not so much on the control of controlling the board. So that said, I think I'll go for the Grizzly, which has superior stats for the mana cost, especially this early in the draft. Alright, Dragonhawk is no good. Skip that every time. Stats are weak. Defias again, really great. Or Assassin's Blade. Having 1 Assassin's Blade in the deck is a pretty good idea, because it's a very efficient card, but you will take a lot of damage. I think I'll go Ringleader this early on. I'd like to pick up an Assassin's Blade, but I think having a reliable minion, especially this one, is worth it. Okay. Well, Dalaran Mage, definitely terrible. Never draft this card. It's not even worth the spell damage because the attack is so low. Berserker's okay for 2 if you just need 2 drops, but not great. So I'm going to go Sprint. This is kind of my late game card. So I'll try to stay away from too much late game as a rogue, but Sprint's a great one because if you have a lot of early to mid game cards, once you reach the late game, you have Sprint in your hand, then you can draw back that a bunch of those early cards and play a bunch more stuff. So Sprint is another card that having one of them in your deck is pretty good. All right, well, 3 really good cards here. It's unfortunate I have to choose. There isn't really one to say it's worse than the others. They're all really good for, you know, their mana cost, what you need. So we'll just go through them. Blue Hoarder's a great 2-drop. I shouldn't say great. He's good. He doesn't lose you card advantage. He dies to a lot of heroes, like rogues and mages and whatnot. But since you don't lose the card advantage and it spends their 2 mana, you just delay them a turn so you can get into your later mana cost cards. Crusader's a great 3-drop, very efficient. She takes a lot of effort to remove in most cases. But I think I'll go Backstab. Backstab's kind of a staple card for rogues that allows simple comboing. So we can do things like Defy Us when otherwise we wouldn't be able to combo it early in the early game. Okay. Raid Leader is definitely the worst of these. Its stats are far too weak to justify it at 3 mana, and its spell text is not strong enough. Bodyguard's also fairly weak. 4 health is very low, so I'm going to go Assassinate. I like that 1 or 2 Assassinates, because especially if you're playing sort of that early aggressive style of rogue, which I tend to do if possible, it really will help you to be able to remove the large threats that the opponent plays late game, because they'll spend most, if not all, of their mana on that single minion, and you can just remove it and continue to put on the pressure. Well, all right. Boar is definitely the worst of these. Another card you should never draft. Corehound I'm also not a big fan of. It's a late game minion, but its health is very low. So because I'm trying to go more aggro, I'm going to go Leper Gnome. It's still not a card I tend to prefer because it dies to a lot of hero powers, but it will allow me to play something on 1, and it's good for comboing things out for cheap in the mid game if I need to. Ooh, legendary. Awesome. Well, unfortunately, Dormu is the weakest of these. The main problem with this card is that the stats for 9 mana are subpar. I mean, it's a good creature, it's a strong minion, but his spell text is pretty irrelevant. It's fun. Played it with it a few times, and it's a lot of fun to suddenly have the game shift to only 15-second turns, because a lot of people spend a lot of time, and I'm one of those people. I spend most of my turn allotted time thinking about what I'm going to do to make proper decisions. So having only 15 seconds really can be a hamper. And that's kind of the main reason that, personally, I don't think this card is very good. Its spell text is sometimes irrelevant, and more often than not, it hurts players like me that spend more time and think carefully, because I don't have that much time to do so. So Illidan is also really good, or I should say also, but is pretty good. His health is very low, but the idea, of course, is that you're playing multiple cards the same turn you play him, if possible, or the turn after. As a rogue, that may be more likely than with other classes. And then Deathwing is just a very well-known sort of finisher. If you reach the end game and you're at 10 mana and your opponent's pretty much played everything that they can do, and you played pretty much everything, this is kind of a card that will sometimes win you the game and finish things off. Unfortunately, I don't think I can justify that as a rogue, because I will try not to last to the end game. If I get to turn 10 or later, I'm probably behind in card advantage, which means that Deathwing is a lot weaker than it would be otherwise. So I'm going to go Illidan. I think it's the best pick for a rogue. If we get, again, backstabs and other cheap cards we can cast at the same turn, we should be able to get some good value out of this guy. Because as long as you cast at least 1 extra card and you get a 2/1 out of it, then the total stats for the mana cost are very efficient. Okay. Well, this is a tough pick here. Raid Leader's definitely out, but Guardian or Stormwind. Can I really justify the Guardian over the Stormwind? I think I have to. I don't have any 4s. and it fits better in that early game style. Alright, so here we have a Shiv, which I'm not a big fan of. The main problem with this card is that it's too similar to an already existing rogue card that's superior, basically, in most every way. So Shiv is 1 damage for 2 mana, you draw a card. Compare that to Fan of Knives, which is 1 damage to all enemy minions for 1 extra mana for 3 mana. So this is almost always superior to Fan of Knives to Shiv. So I generally shy away from Shiv. Obviously, you can deal the damage to the hero, whereas this is limited to enemy minions. But still, I think this card is not very good. You could use it with something like Acolyte of Pain to hit your own minion, but that's also not that useful. And then Jungle Panther is an okay 3-drop, but he does only really trade 1 for 1. So I think I'm going to go Acolyte here. Riskier, but again, if I'm trying to build an early deck, cards like Acolyte will draw me back at least 1 card. It also will force the opponent in many ways to kind of deal with it, and this should allow me to spend my mana more effectively to cast more cards as a follow-up than the opponent could do. That's kind of the idea. Alright, well, 3 good cards here. So Sprint, we already have 1. We only want 1 of those. Acolyte, we just picked up 1. We don't really need another right now. So I definitely want to get the Assassin's Blade while I have the chance. Like to have 1 of those. Really effective weapon. Alright, so here are some of our late game cards. So Fen Creeper, I think, is the worst of these. He's okay if you just need a taunt. He's got enough health that he survives a lot of attacks. Darkscale Healer is pretty good. 4/5 for 5, a little bit below average, but the heal is very effective. And then Ogre, I think, is one of the better 6-drop minions. So I will go Ogre, I think, over the Healer. Even though Healer as a rogue is quite good, because healing yourself is useful. Okay, so we've seen all of these, so we're going to go Bomber. We need a 2-drop, and he's a good one. Angry Chicken, pretty terrible. You can't really rely on buffing it, so it can enrage. It just usually dies. Blade Flurry is also a pretty weak card. The main problem with this card is that you have to invest so much of your own card advantage to actually trigger it and make it effective. Because at best, you're just destroying your... Or I shouldn't say at best, but at worst, you're destroying your own dagger, your 1 attack dagger, to do 1 damage to all enemies for 2 mana. So it costs you, at best, 1 mana for the dagger charge that you didn't use, plus this card, so it's 3 mana and a card to do 1 damage to all enemies. That's pretty rough. So usually, to use Blade Flurry and kill stuff, you want it to be a buffed weapon. So a deadly poisoned weapon will be 3 damage, or the last charge of an Assassin's Blade will be 3 damage, stuff like that. But you're still trading off something that would otherwise get you 1 card in the weapon attack to try to get multiple cards with Blade Flurry. So it's tough to pull off. So I'm going to go Imp Master. It's a good card. That's pretty much it. Alright, Sinister Strike. Very weak card. You should never draft this one. Dealing damage to the enemy hero is not worth a card. If you really want to do something like this, you should get Head Crack, because at least you can use that over and over as sort of extra in-game damage. But Sinister Strike is just a one-off, which is not worth it. Farseer is a great 3. It's tough to find good 3-drops for neutrals, so we're going to get this one. Okay. So, Stormwind Knight is probably the weakest of these, but it's a decent card. It usually gets about 1.5 for 1 on average. Ringleader we've seen already. I think I need the 4-drop for Shield Master more than I need another Ringleader right now. Even though Ringleader's great, my 4s are only 1 Guardian, so Shield Master's quite good. Alright. Tidehunter's terrible. I'll draft it if I need to, just for the 2, but both of them having 1 health dies really easily. So I'm going to go Backstab over these 2. It's a really strong card. Tidecaller is terrible, never draft it. Mana Wraith is pretty weak. its stats are not very good for a 2-drop, and the spell text hurts you just as much as the opponent, so you really have to know why you're playing this. Juggler, on the other hand, is one of the best 2-drops, so we're going to grab him for sure. He's also quite good with stuff like Defias Ringleader. Minions that summon another minion. Okay, interesting choices here. All very rogue-esque cards. Shadow Step is an interesting card, but I really don't find it that useful in arenas because you don't get that many combo cards on average. So, for example, like right now, things that we would combo, I think only Defias Ringleader. I'm pretty sure that's all we have. Yeah, so maybe, and then arguably Storm Rage or something. But basically, we would be using Shadow Step right now to Shadow Step a Defias Ringleader, and then play it again for free to get another 2-1. So effectively, we're spending a Shadow Step in that case to get a 2-1 Defias Bandit, which is terrible. You know, you would not want to play a card that gives you a 2-1 minion, because we could get a Leper Gnome for, you know, 1 mana to do that. The only other way to use Shadow Step effectively is with stuff that the Battle Cry is really useful, and we don't have that much right now. So I tend to shy away from Shadow Step in those situations. So between Phantom Knives and Nightblade, that's going to be a tough choice. I think Nightblade, because I only have 1 5-drop minion, and he's not necessarily something I play on 5. And Phantom Knives, it's okay, but it can be difficult to make it effective. Again, I don't have spell damage. Alright, so here we have Warden is pretty weak on 4. War Golem is an okay late game minion, but I'm going to go Wolf Rider just for the 3 mana cost. Well, yeah, I can't justify Warden, even though he's better for my curve. Alrighty. Rare pick here, Alarmbot is weak. Should never draft it. It just takes too long to summon the minion out, and then another turn to pass for that minion to be able to attack. You have to get really lucky for all that to go well, plus having it pick something very large that, you know, could be useful. Imp Master we've seen. Master of Disguise is very interesting if you can give something stealth that you want to hide. So things that we would want to give stealth to would be Knife Juggler, perhaps. Auctioneer, perhaps. That's about it. I mean, like everything else, even those two arguably should be engaged in combat. So we don't really have much. Like, ideal targets for this are really weak minions that you don't want to be in combat, like a Demolisher. That's a prime target for Master of Disguise. If you could stealth a Demolisher, whew, I mean, that'd be insane. That said, I think I'll still pick her because she's a 4/4 for 4 at worst, and we could use a 4-drop minion. So, okay, Murloc Raider, another weak card. Should never draft it. Acolyte again. So I'm gonna go Sap here. It's not as effective as something like Assassinate, which just destroys the minion, but this can be played in a pinch to delay the opponent. So, again, if you're playing an aggressive style of rogue, which usually you will have to, you're just tagging the opponent's hero when you can with whatever you have on the board. They play a big minion, kind of mid to late game, you can sap it. It only costs you 2 mana, so you can also play some other stuff the same turn, and then they have to spend the mana again their following turn and to do the play one more time. So a great combination is something like Sap and Assassinate, where they may be forced to play the card twice, and then the second time they do it, you assassinate it. You know. Anyway, it's the best of these cards right now. Oh, God. Alright, some pretty weak picks here. Hungry Crab is terrible. Never draft it. War Leader is okay if you just need a 3/3, but keep in mind that it's going to buff all Murlocs. We don't have any Murlocs ourselves, so it's just a 3/3 at best, and at worst it buffs the opponent's Murlocs. So I'll go Big Game Hunter as pseudo removal. If we reach the late game and the opponent has something super scary, that'll be good to use. Most likely, Big Game Hunter is used on a Venture Co-Mercenary. That's the common target, which is good enough, though. Okay. Last few picks here. Mechanics stats are very weak. I'm not a big fan of her. Even though I could use the 4, I think it's between Worgen and Assassinate, and I think Assassinate because I have quite a few 3s already. Yeah, we'll go Assassinate number 2. Ooh, alright. I think Conceal is the weakest of these, because giving your minion stealth for 1 turn sort of helps you, but you have to be like in a crazy aggressive situation, which can be tough to pull off. Sprint, I think, is great, but a second one is probably excessive. It'd be difficult to play both of them. So I think I actually go Bodyguard here. It would be our second 5-drop we could play on 5 no matter what, but it's still weak. It's got the same problem with the Nightblade. It's 4 health for 5. But I still think it's probably the best choice. Alright, rare pick here. I think Assassin is the weakest card in general of these. But it does have stealth, so it's good for finishing the opponent. Kodo is great. It's almost always 2 for 1 if you can play it at the right time. Cobra, always pretty much a 1 for 1. Let's see. I think I go Kodo here. Yeah. I'm kind of upset. This deck is looking weak because we haven't seen any Eviscerates or Deadly Poison, which are really important. And here is a pretty weak pick. I guess I could go Cold Blood as a finisher. Combine it with a cheap minion like the Defias Bandit or Leper Gnome or even Acolyte. I think it's going to be better than the Harpy, and Voodoo Doctor's terrible. So, and last choice. Alright, rare pick. Mana Addict is weak. Should never draft it. Imp Master again, but we're going to go Argus. It's good 4 still, and we could use a 4. Alright, yeah. So I think this deck is okay, but it's going to have difficulty making it to the high end. At least with how I built it and how I sort of play Rogue. You really need the strength of the Deadly Poisons early on in particular to get board control quickly and then establish the rest of the game. And Eviscerates are also great for finishing cards and stuff. So yeah, we got 2 backstabs, but only 2 cards we can combo, which are the 2 Defias. It's not good.
Valera versus Uther. I will fight.
Alright, up against a Paladin here. So we're going second. We got the Defias, so that's great. Unfortunately, Paladin can summon a 1/1 to kill a 2/1, but it's still not the best for them. I'll keep these 2. Okay. So, I mean, we get a good start, but we don't have anything lined up for our second turn at this point. But even so, I think it's worth getting the Defias out. So he'll summon a 1/1. And if we don't draw a 2, we'll just dagger and kill it. If we do draw a 2, We'll use this Defias to kill it.
Reporting for duty.
Okay.
Here we go.
Looking at me.
So for his 3-drop, likely we'll backstab it and hit it. Oh, okay, good. Well, never mind. Don't have to. So I could backstab that, but I'll just trade my 2-1 since my 2-1 is susceptible to consecrate anyway. Yeah, backstab would be extremely good to save until turn 6 with the Illidan if possible. Okay. So I'll probably have to play Master of Disguise just to play something. Yeah, Argus on 1 is not good enough. So I'll attack first, then Master so I can stealth this, even though stealthing this is pointless. I'm still going to save my dagger attack in case I want to use that damage. Because based on my hand, I do have something to play on 5, so I can't afford the 2 mana. So, it's a good thing I saved the dagger. So I think I'll just attack with everything. And Nightblade.
Blades ready.
Looking at me.
They'll never know what go.
So we have a pretty scary force on the board. And we have Argus or Backstab Stormrage. We'll see what he does here. Can't backstab that, unfortunately. Sinjin. Okay. Double backstab. Well, I can only use 1 since it requires an undamaged minion. I can't hit this. So let's see. I think. Well, there are a lot of ways to do this. So I can Illidan, backstab that, 4/4 into it, 2/1 into that. Yeah. I think that's fine.
Too soon.
You are not prepared.
This one's mine.
Looking at me.
Blades ready.
So, we got value out of Illidan already, in terms of total stats.
Follow the rules.
This must be a humility, yeah. Consecrate. Alright. So we'll backstab that and dagger it, it looks like. Let's see. Is it worth Argusing these? I can do 5 to him now, put him down to 10. If I Argus, put him down to 8.
I wonder.
No, I don't think Argus is worth it. I think Guardian for now. Play it in the mill here.
Silvermoon shall not fall.
Here we go. Blades ready.
Shall be next to taste my death.
So obviously the humility on Illidan is quite unfortunate. I miss a lot of damage on him, but he really needs another Consecrate. Otherwise he's doomed.
I wonder.
Yeah, he's got it. That's lucky for him.
Let the pain speak to me.
Oh, if only I had Auctioneer with those backstabs. It would have been amazing. Oh well. So I can do 4 or 5 to him, put him at 5. I can Argus, put him to 3. But I think Sprint is probably my best bet here. He'll be at 4, oh no, 5 cards after this dies. Alright, I got a lot of spells to use with Auctioneer, so our card advantage is going to go crazy. Cold Blood. Tempting, but not worth it right now. I'll kill this so we can't buff it. And attack. I might have saved the dagger's swing there. But I do have an Assassin's Blade, so it's possible I just play that.
My shield for Argus.
Argus is useful. But not good enough. We'll assassinate this, and we can Cold Blood to allow one of these to finish.
Remember, next to taste my blades.
All those 2-1s, man. So it's tough to say how strong Illidan was there. It was good. He sort of indirectly affected the game heavily because the 2-1s never did anything. Like, they never attacked once. They were always killed. But Illidan himself did a little bit of damage for a couple rounds, but more importantly, I think he forced the opponent to make certain plays that consecrates effectively because of those summons. So, either way, it was a very strong game. It was in our favor pretty much the whole time.